Lynx is a framework similar to React Native. In this course, you will learn to build a game search application using Lynx, ByteDance's newly open-sourced cross-platform framework that delivers native performance with modern development practices. This comprehensive course guides you through setting up a Lynx project, implementing API integration, and mastering Lynx's unique dual-thread architecture for optimal performance. This tutorial provides an essential introduction to Lynx's UI components, state management with TanStack Query, and navigation implementation using React Router. Brijen developed this course.
Hey everyone, in this video we'll be building a video game search app using Lynx, a framework by ByteDance. It's a company behind TikTok, and using Lynx we can create projects for Android, iOS and web as well. So let me give you a quick demo. So this is the app we are going to build. On the home screen you will see various video games categories. You can scroll through them. You can press on any of the game and get a detailed view about this game. We are also integrating third-party libraries like React Router and TanStack Query. At the top, you will get all the details about various video game events. You can also search for a specific video game. Let me search for a game, let's say Mad Max. So let's start building this project. So first of all, search for Lynx. Alright. You can go to the quick start. So the only requirement is that you have Node.js installed on your machine. Just copy this npm command, open your terminal, move to the folder where you want to create your project, and just paste the command. So for the project name, let's go for Lynx game TypeScript. Alright, so now let me just open the project. I'm using Z as a code editor, but you can also use VS Code or any other code editor of your choice. Alright. In the terminal, now let's run npm install. So for this video, I will be testing the app on iOS simulator, but if you want to use Android simulator, you can simply follow the steps here. It should be pretty straightforward. Right. Now we need to download this. Alright. Once it's downloaded, let me just copy this command. Open your terminal again. Move to the downloads folder. Alright. Now paste this command. It will create this app. Now open the simulator. What you need to do is that just drag and drop this app. Let me do it once again. Alright. As you can see, it's installing the new app. It's called Lynx Explorer. We'll be using this app to test our project. Alright, finally we can do npm run dev. Alright. So in the simulator, open the app. We can copy this URL and just paste the URL over here. So we are successfully running the Lynx app on our iOS simulator. Alright, it's good. Now let's take a look at the project structure. So first we have tsconfig file for our TypeScript. Then we have a readme file. We also have a package.json file for the dependencies. And Lynx config file, all the configuration for the links will go here. In the src folder, index.txx is our entry point. We are entering the app over here. And if you go to the app, this is our app.tsx file. We also have a app.css file for all the styling. Let's say in the app.tsx, this React title is coming from here. So let's change it to video games. Let me just save this. And you can see it's also changed over here. Now go back to the documentation. For the debugging, we'll be using the Lynx DevTools. To download this, just go to this URL. Here in the assets, you can download the DMG file. Once you download and installed, you can open it. I have already installed this app, so just open this. And let me just paste this URL again. Alright, now you can see the preview of the app over here as well. So we have elements first. You can see the element structure of your entire app. This is very similar to the web experience. So let's go to the banner in the title. Here you can also edit this. Let me just type Brijen. As you can see, it also gets changed over here as well. In the console, we'll be seeing all our logs. This hello React links coming from this is fact. So we'll be using these Lynx DevTools to debug our app. Alright. Alright, now let's clean up the project. First of all, go to your tsconfig file and add these two options, allow importing TS extensions, mark it as true, and no omit as true as well. This will make sure that we are importing all our components from tsx files. And in the app.tsx, we also don't need any of this at the moment. Delete everything. Alright. In the app.css, delete everything as well. Now in the app.css, we need colors that we are going to use in our app. So this is our background color and this is the accent color. You can use CSS variable for this. Let me reload this. You can just long press any part of your screen and just reload. Alright. So currently we have a view. The view is similar to how you view in React Native. The difference is we will use the lowercase. Let's provide class name. Let's call it container. In the app.css, let's define container. Height will be 100%. Background color will come from the CSS variable. We can provide padding top. Here we can use env, and in the brackets we can use safe area inset top. Same as padding bottom. This will make sure that our content doesn't hit the notch that we have on the iPhones. Bottom. Alright, so now first we will try to create this GameCard component, because once we create this GameCard component we can use it multiple times. Go to the src folder and create a new folder. Let's name it components. Alright, create a new file. Let's say GameCard. It will be a React component. We will return a view. Let's do export default. Alright, in the app.tsx, let's just render it over here. Alright, so first of all we have this image, and then we have the title of the game. In the view, let's provide a class name. Let's call it card. Here we can use the image. In image we can provide the source. Let's use any dummy image as of now. Let's search for Elden Ring. This is the game that I played last year. Let me go to the images and let me just copy this image. Paste it over here. Save. Let's also provide class name. It will be just an image. Alright. You don't see anything because we don't have any CSS for that as of now. Let's use text. So you can use this text element to render the text. Let's do Elden Ring. Alright, we can see the text over here. We can provide class name as card title. Alright. In the app.css, let's first style the card. So we will do display flex. Flex direction will be column. Let's do padding 15 pixel. Let's also do background color. It will be white. Let's provide some border 1 pixel, solid, and the color will be black. Let's do border radius as well. Let's say 15 pixel. Alright. We can also provide the inline styles by using style. Let's do width. Let's say 150 pixel. Alright. Let's style the image. Width will be 100%. We can also provide the aspect ratio 3:4. Now we can see the image clearly. Let's also provide some border radius 10 pixel. Alright, it's looking good. Let's do card title. Let's just provide font weight 600. In the card, we can provide the gap 10 pixel. Alright, so it's looking good. So in the app.tsx, if we just copy this and paste it multiple times, we can see we can reuse these component multiple times. Later on, we can also provide the props. But as of now, it's good. Alright, let me just delete this from here. If you see now, we have this category. The category has a heading and a list of games. And we are reusing this component multiple times in here and as on. So let's create that. In the component, let's create a new file. Let's call it GameCategory.tsx. Alright, we can return a view. Let's export it. The app.tsx. This time let's render game category and remove this. Alright. Let's provide class name of category. Here we will have a text. Let's say most anticipated. Then here we will render our games. Alright. In the text, let's provide class name of heading. Alright. Let's do category first. Display will be flex. Flex direction will be column. Let's do gap 20 pixel. Let's also do padding left 20 pixel as well. Now let's style the heading. Font size 18 pixel. Font weight will be 600. Alright, it's looking good. So now we need to render the games, a list of games. So for that we have a component. Let's go to Lynx. Let's search for list. So these are all the built-in components that you get with Lynx. We have view, text, image. We have already used those. We also have scroll view. So when you need scrolling feature in your app, you can use scroll view instead of just a normal view. We will use that in future. So currently we are interested in list as well. So this is how list works. It is similar to how flat list work in React Native. So let's just copy this. And paste it over here. First, we need to render the game card. So we just delete this. Do game card. Alright. So we can provide the scroll orientation. In our case, it will be horizontal. Then you have list type. Lynx has multiple list type. We have single, we have flow, and we also have the waterfall. So by using, if you are using vertical, then you can use flow and waterfall for masonry layouts, and you can provide the number of columns that you want in your list by using span count. In our case, we need span count as 1 because we are using horizontal. Let's delete the style as of now, and let's provide class name horizontal list. Let me save this. As you can see, we are already getting a list. Currently the data are the same because we are not using any props at the moment. In the app.css, let's provide horizontal list. Here there's one property that you can use. If you go to the CSS file, you will find let's main escape. So let me just copy this, paste it over here. Now we have gap in between all the game cards. Let me do 20. I guess 15 will work. Alright. If we go to the app.game category, we have 50 elements. At the end, we can also provide padding right. Let's do padding right 15 pixel as well. So we have some gap at the right. Alright. Now if we go to the app.tsx, copy this and paste it multiple times, we are getting this list of categories, but we are not able to scroll because the content is going beyond our screen. So instead of just view, let's wrap it in scroll view. Alright. In the scroll view, we can provide the class name, or let's say scroll container. Here we can say scroll content. In the app.css, let's rename it to scroll container, and let's provide scroll content, and we can copy this, paste it over here. Alright, now as you can see, alright, that's a property that we need to provide. Let's say scroll orientation vertical. You have to provide this property, otherwise scroll view will not work. Alright, now it's working fine. Alright, now let's talk about the IGDB API. It's owned by Twitch. So we are going to use the IGDB API to get the data about various video games. So search for IGDB API. And to get the API key, you first need to have a Twitch account. So go ahead and create a Twitch account if you don't already have one. And don't forget to enable the two-factor authentication using your mobile number. And once you do that, head over to Twitch developer portal. Log in with Twitch. Alright, once you are inside your Twitch developer portal, go to the applications. Here you can click on register your application. So let me name Lynx game. In the redirect URL, you just paste localhost. Category, let me select application integration, and client type will be confidential. Alright, we have successfully created a new application. If you go to the manage, here you have your client ID, and you can click on new secret, and it will basically generate the new secret ID. Alright, now go to the Postman. Postman is basically a tool which allows us to test the APIs and sign in with your email and go to the workspace. Here at the top, search for IGDB in the collections. You will see this IGDB API. Alright. So these are all the API endpoints that we can make network requests to and get the various data. Let me go to the, first you need to fork it. Alright, give it a name and fork your collection. Alright, so once you fork it, you get your own copy of IGDB API in your Postman collections. Here at the top, if you see, it says no environment. So click on that and select the environment. And in the environment variables, here we need to provide our Twitch client ID and the client secret. And once we do that, we can generate the access token. So come back to the developer portal of Twitch. This is the client ID. Paste it over here. And this is the secret ID. Alright. Now press on send. It will make an API request to this get access token endpoint. So here how we get the access token. This access token and the client ID, we will be needing those two values in our application to make request for fetching the game collections. These are all the API endpoints that you can make requests to. We are interested in games. Alright. In the environment, we already have our client ID. Here you can paste your access token. Alright. Now if you come to the body, here in the body, if you see, we have some type of queries written over here. So these are all the fields that we are interested in. If you just press on send, you will get data about the video games. It has age ratings, aggregate ratings, and names, screenshot, cover, etc. Let me just delete this. Let's say we are only interested in ID and name of the game. If I press send, you can see we are getting back the ID and name of the games only. If we are also interested in cover, let's say cover, send the request. We also get the cover, but it's a reference ID to the cover. If you see, we also have an endpoint pointing to the covers. If you go back to the covers and make a request, you see a cover has ID, game ID, height, image ID, URL, etc. So we are interested in image ID. So come back to the games. Here, if you only need image ID from the cover, you can use dot notation, image ID, press send. This is how you get the image ID. So this is how all the API endpoints with IGDB API works. If you are more interested in getting to know how it actually works, then I highly recommend you to go to the IGDB API docs. Here you can go through all the endpoints, all the examples, and in this video, I will be providing you all the queries that we need to run your applications. Alright, now back to the code. In app.tsx file, outside of the app component, here are all the queries that we are going to use in our app. You can get these queries from my GitHub repo. So we are fetching the current timestamp, and based on that, we have divided queries into 4 categories. The first one is the most anticipated. So for that, we are fetching ID, name, and image ID of the game to fetch this cover. And we are fetching all these 3 fields in all the queries. So in most anticipated query, we are checking if hype is greater than 0 and the first release date is greater than the current timestamp. So all the games that are not released yet, and we are sorting them in descending order of the hypes. Second is recently released, so we are taking the 3 months gap, 60 seconds into 60 minutes into 24 hours into 30 days into 3 months. So we are getting all the games that are released in past 3 months, and we are sorting them according to the rating count. Same for currently popular. We are taking all the games that are released in past year and check if its rating count is greater than 50 or not. And same goes for top 20 games. And we are limiting to 20 games in each query. And as I said earlier as well, if you want to go deep into the IGDB API, then I highly recommend you to check out the docs. So here, let me just delete. Here we can map through all the categories. Game categories dot map. And game category. Right, let me save this. You also need to provide a key, which in our case will be ID. Alright. Now we can go to the game category. Now we can modify the game category so it can accept props. Let's create an interface. It takes ID as a string, then it takes title and query. Alright. Props. We can destructure it over here. You can also destructure it in the props itself. Alright. So in the heading, we can render the title in curly braces. Alright. Here we can pass all the properties using spread operator. Alright. As you can see, we are getting most anticipated, recently released, currently popular, and top 20. So we are also getting this query from our app.tsx, and using this query we will create a network request to the IGDB API to fetch all the game data, and along with that we are also using TanStack Query to manage our data fetching and state management. Lynx also provide a support for the TanStack. Alright, so to install the TanStack Query, go to your browser and search for Lynx. Here you can search for TanStack. Alright, here is the command to install. Just copy this, paste it, we can copy this import statement, go to the index.tsx file, paste it over here. We need to create a query client. Like this. Then we can wrap our app into query client provider. Like this. Alright. Let me also reload the app, see if it works. Alright, it's working fine. Now to fetch the data, let's create a new folder. Let's name it hooks. Here we can create a custom hook. Let's call it useGameQuery.ts. Right. Let's first create a function getQueriedGames. This useGameQuery hook will take query as an argument. It will be of type string. Alright. So here we can make the fetch request. Let me turn it into a async function. So here we are doing a fetch request to the IGDB API. If we go to the Postman, we are making request to this endpoint. It's a post request and we need to provide the client ID and authorization as well. So for the client ID, here is our client ID. You get this from the IGDB. Paste this over here and the access token that we have generated. In the authorization, we need to provide the access token. And as you can see in the body, we need to pass the query. So here we are passing the query inside the body. Alright, const data, await response .json. And simply return the data. Alright. Now in the hook itself, let's return the use query. Query key will be, let's say, queried games and query as well. Use query will use these to cache the data. Now query function. Alright. Let's do export default useGameQuery. Let's also provide some types. Create a new file. Let's call it iGamePreview. So it has ID, it has the name of the game, and it has cover. Cover is an object, we have image ID as string. So here it will return a promise and iGamePreview. It will be array. Alright. So let's go to the game category. Here we can call the hook. We will pass the query. It returns data. A state called is pending and error state as well. So if it's pending, let's return a text say loading. If any error happens, let's return a text as well. Let's say error and error.message. Lastly, if we have data, then we can console log. Actually, let's name it games. Alright, as you can see, we already see a loading state. If you go to the dev tools, here as you can see, we are getting some games. Alright, we are successfully getting the games. Now we need to pass this game into this horizontal list that we have created. Let's do games. Here it will be a game. We don't need index because our game has ID. So we can pass game.id as key. Here let's pass all the properties. Alright, go to the game card this time. Now let's make some changes to our game card component so it can accept props. Actually, we don't need to create another type for that. We can simply reuse this type because it also has the same type. Let's do game preview. We have ID, we have name, and we have cover. Let's first render only the name. If I save this, as you can see, we are getting the names correctly. We have GTA 6, we have Vampire, we have Faber. Alright, we have The Witcher 3 as well. Alright. Now let's fetch the images as well. So there is a structure URL that we need to use because we are getting this image ID, and based on that image ID we can generate the structure URL of the IGDB game cover. So for that, let's just create a new file in src. Let's name it utils.ts. Let's create a function get image get game image. And if you go to the IGDB API, here go to the reference in the images. Here you will find the URL that you want to use, and based on the image ID we can generate the URL. So let me just copy this. It will take the image ID. It will be of type string, and it will return. Alright. Instead of hash, we want to use image ID. In the size, we can use all of these size in the tables. So we'll be using 1080p. And for the extension, we are not going to use JPG. We are going to use WebP. Alright, let me save this. Also need to export. In the game card, now we can delete this. Use the function get game image. In here we can pass cover.imageID. Let me save this. Alright, we are getting the images of the games. We are getting GTA 6, Vampire. Alright, God of War, The Last of Us. Alright. Now let's talk about our second screen, which will be game details screen. So whenever user press on any of the game, we want to redirect them to the game details screen. So in React, we have event listener like onClick, and if we talk about React Native, we can use onPress. But when it comes to links, we have bind tab, bind blur, bind focus, etc. So by default, this bind tab event handling will be handled on the background thread, but we can also handle it on the main thread, which we will look into it in later part of the video. But for now, let's do bind tab and just do console log. Let's say pressed. All right. Now here, if I press on, let's say GTA 6, you can see it says pressed. If I pressed on any other game cards, you can see. So this is how you can assign event listeners to the element. Now to come back to the routing part, we can use React router to achieve the routing. So come back to the Lynx documentation, search for routing. It is in React Lynx documentation. So if you notice, we are using the version 6 of the React router. So copy this command and paste it. Now in our index file, let's copy this. Then we can wrap our routes in memory router. Let me just copy this. Instead of app, let's render this. All right. As you can see, our app is still working. So to create a new screen, let's first create a new folder, name it screens. Let's name it game details. CSX. Let's export a React component. We will use scroll view. Inside we will use a view. Let's provide the class name. We already have scroll container. Here in the view, let's do scroll content. All right. Let's do game details screen and export it. All right. Now come back to the index.tsx. Let me just copy this, and here we can provide the path. Let's say game details, and the component we want to render is game details screen. All right. Now let me copy this. All right. Now if we come back, for the navigating, we can use a hook called useNavigate. So just copy this from here, the game card, and to navigate, we can simply call this hook and in the bind tab, you can use this nav game details. Let me also do a reload. All right. Now if I press on, now let's say this one, As you can see, we are now on the game details screen. Alright, let me also reload this. Okay, so whenever user press on any of the game card, we also need to pass the ID of that game. So later on we can make a network request to that ID and fetch all the data regarding the specific video game. So to do that, we need to provide parameters like this. So it has city, but in our case we will have ID and ID. And to get these parameters, we can use useParams hook in our game details screen. And we can use this. You don't need to memorize any of the syntax regarding this library or any of the libraries that you use in your project. Just follow the documentation and let's say ID. And we forgot to wrap this inside a text. Whenever you want to render some text, it has to be between this text. Let's say game ID. Let me also reload this just to be safe. If I press on GTA 6, alright, we are not getting. Alright, let me just style this. Let's say color will be red. Alright, since we make changes to these parameters, we forgot to make changes here as well. Alright, let's use string interpolation and we can pass the ID like this. Alright, now let me reload the game details. We are also console logging the ID and we are also rendering the ID as well. Alright, we are seeing the ID of GTA 6. If I press on Red Dead Redemption 2, it's one of my favorite games. Alright, we are also seeing the game ID. Now let's first create a back button so we can go back to the home screen. Let me close all the windows. Alright, in the component, let's create a new file, back button. We'll be using this back button in multiple files, so we are making a custom component. Let's export it. Alright, go to the game details screen. Here, remove the text, render the back button. Here in the view, let's provide a class name. Let's call it back button. Here we will use an image. So for the image, I already have one in the assets. You can get these assets from my GitHub repo. So currently we are using this back button. Let me just drag and drop this. Alright. Now that we have the image, we first need to import it. Back icon from assets, back G. We can use it like this. Let's provide a class name. Let's say bed icon. Let's go to the app.css file and let's do back icon first. Let's provide the width 20 pixel, aspect ratio 1. Alright. Let's do back button. Let's provide padding 10 pixels. Let's provide border 1 pixel, solid type, and color will be black. You can provide the border just like this. And let's provide border radius 100%. Let's do align self flag start. Right. In the game details, in the view, let's provide some padding over here using style. Let's say 20 pixel. Alright, it's good. So in back button, let's create nav using use navigate. And we can assign to point tab. To go back, we can just do -1. And if I press on this, as you can see, we are on the home screen. Okay, let me just press this. Alright, let me reload this. Sometimes the style doesn't work if you don't reload. Alright. And also we need some border in the image as well. So come back to the CSS file in the image. Let's say border 1 pixel, solid black. Okay, it looks good. Black myth. Okay. Okay, so now in the game details screen, we already have the ID. So using this ID, we can make a request to the IGDB API to fetch the data about this specific game. So for that, let's create a new hook. Let's call it useGame.ts. And it will be mostly the same as the useGameQuery. So just copy this and change the name. Alright. Instead of query, it will take an ID of the game. Let's also remove these type as of now. Here we need to draft the query first. So const query. Alright, so here we need to provide what fields we need. So we will need ID of the game, we will need name, we will need cover, and inside it we need image ID. Alright, so to find out more fields, let's come back to the IGDB API. We come to the game. Alright, we are fetching the cover. We need, alright, we have genres as well, and in genre we are getting the name as well. Alright, so in genres, and inside that we need name. What else? We need involved companies. Inside of that company we need name of that company here. involved company dot name. All right, we are already getting the name. We also need platforms, and platform is also a reference. Platforms has name. All right, dot name. We need rating. Release dates. In release dates, we have this human readable date, so we will use that. It's not human. Screenshots, we need image ID, so we will use screenshot.imageID. And we need similar games as well. Similar games is also a reference to the game itself, so we will get all these a property as well. So similar games dot, first we get ID, then similar dot games dot name dot cover dot image ID. We are fetching the ID, name, cover and image ID. Okay, and we need a summary as well. I think we are good to go. All right, so we need to fetch the data for only one game, so we can specify ID like this, and we are making the request to the same endpoint. Here let's do game and let's provide the ID. Let's change the name of the function. Let's say get game. All right, let's go to the game details screen. Let's call the hook. Let's pass the ID. We will get data. Let's name it to game is pending if error. If it's pending, just return a text. If error, return the error. If we have data, then just log it. Let me reload. All right, let's press on GTA 6. If we go to the DevTools, here we are getting the data. We are getting an array. In that we are getting the, it says missing semicolon at the end of the query, syntax error. All right, let's go to the useGame. Here we need to pass the semicolon as well. All right, now if I press on GTA 6, as you can see, we are getting the data. All right, and return the first element only because we are only interested in the one game. All right, let me just delete this. Let's go to the types and add a new type. Export interface iGame. Now this game interface also includes all these properties, so we can just extend all of these properties as well. And AI is trying to suggest something. All right, so we have a new type called game. It has all these properties, and on top of that we are getting the rating, release dates, genre, summary, all the details that we are fetching in the query as well. And similar games is type of iGame preview from here, so we can use that. It returns a promise. All right, now it's typed. Now let's start rendering all the details about the game. First we have the cover of the game. Let's destructure the property first. Cover. Image element. SRC will be get image. Class name image. Let's provide the style with, let's say, 60%. Aspect ratio 3/4, and align self center. Then we have name. Let's do game name. 25 pixel. Font weight will be 600. We have this rating in the same row, so we need to wrap this inside a view. Here we can create another view. Inside we can create an image. Here in the assets we have this rating icon. You can get this icon from my GitHub repo. So let's import it. Let's provide class name rating icon. Here we can do rating container. And let's go back because GTA 6 doesn't have a rating as of now. Let's go to God of War. Let me reload first. All right. Let's do rating. Here as well. Let's divide it by 10, so we get the rating out of 10 to fixed. All right. Rating. Come to the CSS part. Let's first provide in the game details. Let's do game info, class name, display flags, align item center. Then rating container, rating icon. Let's provide some width so we can actually see the icon. 25 pixel, aspect ratio 7. In the rating container, let's do display flags, align item center. Let's provide some gap. In the game name, we can do flex 1, so it takes the entire width available. Now let's style the rating. Let's do font size 20 pixel, font weight 600. Alright, it looks good. Then we have the developer. Here we can destructure involved companies. It's basically an array, and this array contains all the developers as well as the publishers. We are only rendering the first element. If you want, you can categorize them by publisher and the developer. Alright. Thanks. It's an array, and we are interested in the first element, dot company, and the name. Let's do developer. Font size, let's say 18 pixel. Font weight, we can do 500. Alright, then we have this date. For the date, let's create a custom component because we are going to use this component at multiple places. Let's call it date item. It will return a view. Let's directly destructure here. It will accept a date. Date will be of time string. Inside in the text, we can render date. Let's provide some class. Date container. Indeed. Here we can do release dates. If we hover, it is an array and it has a property called human. First element, human. Now come to the CSS. Actually, let's also render the image first. We have image in the assets. Import date icon. Let's do class name. Alright, in the CSS, let's first do date icon so we can see it. 20 pixel, aspect as 7. Date container, display flags, align item center. Let's do keep 10 pixel. Let's provide background color. We can use the CSS variable that we have already declared. Alright, let's do width. We can do feed content, padding. Top and bottom will be 5 and left and right will be 10 pixel. Border radius, let's say 20 pixel. Let's provide some border. Solid. It looks good. Let's do date 13 pixel. Alright, it looks good. Alright, now let's render the summary. Destructure the summary here. Let's render it in between text. Alright, we have our summary. Let's provide class name. Let's say font size 15 pixel. If you look at the screenshot, by default we are only showing the 5 lines, and if user press on see more, then the text will expand. So to achieve that, Lynx has inbuilt solution for that. Inline truncation. Here we can provide the text. Text will be 3 dots and see more, and here we can provide the max line. Let's say 5, as you can see, but we don't have any functionality as of now. So for that, let's create a state, max line, set max line, use state. By default it will be 5. If you go above, import use state from links.js/react. Don't import it from React directly. Alright, here we can specify max line. Here in the text we can do bind tab. Whenever user press on it, we can set it to -1 in a string. Alright, let's see if it works. It works. Alright, next we have genres. Let's destructure. If you hover over genre, it's an array and it has ID and name. We can use JavaScript map for that. First, let's create a view. Class name will be tag container. Inside, let's map through the genres. Dot map. And we will render text. Name. Let's provide key ID. Alright, we have three genres. In the text, let's provide class name tag. The CSS tag container, let's say display flags, align item center, and we can also do flags wrap. Alright, let's do gap 10 pixel. And let's do tag. Background color will be white. Padding, top and bottom will be 5 pixel, left and right will be 10 pixel. Let's provide border 1 pixel, solid and black. Alright, let's also provide border radius. Let's say 20 pixel. Alright, we have the genres as well. Let's go to any other game. Now go to the any. Alright, The Last of Us. Alright, we have the genres. Next we have screenshot. Alright. Next we are rendering the screenshots. Let me first restructure it. Screenshot is an array with ID and image ID. So basically we can use list for that. Let's first render the heading screenshots, class name, heading. Alright. If we go to the game category, we are also rendering a horizontal list here, so we can just copy this, paste it over here. Instead of game, we have screenshots. Screenshot.id. Here we are rendering an image. Alright, src will be get game image, screenshot dot image id. Let's use the same class name image, and we can provide style here in line. First let's say width to 30 pixel, aspect ratio will be 16:9. Alright, we are not getting the scrolling because we haven't specified the orientation. Scroll orientation will be vertical. Alright, now we are getting some really nice screenshots from the Last of Us games. Let's check any other. GTA 6. Again reload this. Now come back to the GTA 6. Alright, we are getting the screenshots. After that we have platforms. Basically on which platform you can play this game on. Alright. Let's render the heading first. You can play on. Class name will be heading. Let's destructure the platform. Alright, platform is an array and it has ID and name. It is very similar to the genres here. So we can just copy this, paste it over here. We can use tag container and tag, but instead of genres, we can render the platforms. Platform here and here also. Alright, let me save. Alright, so as you can see, GTA 6 will be coming on Xbox and PlayStation 5. Alright, in the rating, what we can do is that we only render rating if it's available. Rating. We can do conditional rendering here. Alright, we are getting platforms, genres, screenshots, everything is working. Lastly, we have list of similar games. Last time heading. Let's restructure the similar games. Alright, if you look at the screenshots, this component is similar to this component that we are also rendering over here. So what we can do is that we can come to the game category and you can create a custom component after this, because we are also going to use this list of games in game events as well. So let's create a component and let's name it GameList. GameList. And it will return this. Export different game list. And in the props, we can simply pass games. It will be an array of game preview. We can import game card. Alright, so in the game category, let's try to use it. Instead of this, let's do game list and pass the games. Alright, it's still working. Now come back to the game details. Here also do game list. And in the games, we can pass similar games. Let me save this and let me reload. If I press on GTA 6, alright, we are getting the similar games. If I press on another game, alright, it's still working. So everything works perfectly fine. Here in the game card, what we can do is that we can limit the number of lines in name. Let's set 2. Alright, it's better. Alright, so now let's create a good loading indicator and we can use CSS for that. Come to the browser. Let me search for CSS loaders. There are plenty of options to choose from. Let me select this one. Copy the CSS the app.css file, just paste it. Here instead of white, we will use our own color. And we don't need box sizing or display. Let's add top 50% and align self. Center. Create a new component. Let's name it loader. It simply returns a view. With class name of loader. Let's do export default. Alright. In the game category, here in the is pending state, let's render the loader. Alright, let me reload this. As you can see, we are getting the loader and animation works as well. Let's also do in game details. Let me do reload once again. Let's come to the Mafia, the old country. Alright, we are getting the loader. And everything works perfectly fine. Now let's add some CSS animations in the app.css. And this time let me use AI. I will ask add fade in scale animation. Alright, it has generated. The class name is fade in scale. Let me copy this in the game card. Along with the card class name, let me provide fade in scale. If I reload this, as you can see, the animation works perfectly fine. So this is the beauty about Lynx framework, that you can use CSS animations. Let me add another one. Let me use AI. Add flip in animation. Alright. Let me copy the class name. In the game details, we can provide this animation in the game cover image. Let me reload once again. Alright, let's see. Uncharted 4. As you can see, animation works perfectly fine. Now if you come to the Lynx documentation, you can see that Lynx framework runs on dual threaded architecture. It has main thread and the background thread. So main thread is responsible for UI rendering on the screen, and all your event handlers and side effects will be running on the background thread. You can read this documentation, and if you come back to the code base, let's say in the game card, here we have used bind tab. So by default it works on the background thread only. So now we will see how we can run the code on the main thread, and using that main thread we can manipulate the element directly. So let me go to the utils file. Here we will create two functions which will change the background color of this game card whenever user press on it, and that code will be running on the main thread. Let's do export const handle tab start. It will receive an event. So event will be your main thread dot touch event. Alright, since we are running this function on the main thread, here we need to provide main thread directive like this. Then we can do e dot current target dot set style property. Name of the property is background color, and value will be, let me get value from our CSS file, this one. Alright, let me copy this and here simply change it to white. Alright, now in the game card, we can do bind touch start. So whenever user press on any of the game card and whenever the touch event start, we will call handle tap start and bind touch end, we will call handle tap end. Alright, if we do like that, the code will still run on the background thread, but here we have specified the main thread. So for that, we also need to do main thread hover like this here as well. So now this code will run on the main thread. Let me reload this. Okay, if I press on, alright, I have provided the wrong color, I guess. The color is this one. Let me reload this. If I press on any of the game, as you can see, the color is changing. And we are getting the user feedback. Right. Let me also do that in back button. Let me copy this. Import. Alright, so now if you press on back button, you also see the user feedback. So whenever you want to run any of your code in the main thread, you need to provide the main thread directive here in the function and in the event handling as well. You can read more about it on the documentation. Alright, now let's work on rendering the list of event at the top. In this screenshot here is the event card. So we will first fetch data from the IGDB API about all the events, then we can render them onto the screen. So once again, come on to the Postman, and if you come to the events, this is the API endpoint that we need to call. Just press on the sign, and here are all the data. We are interested in ID, name of the event, event logo, and image ID. We are also interested in start time. Let me send this. Alright, so this is our data. Come back to the code base. In the hooks, let's create a new file. Let's name it useGameEvents. And let us copy the content from the useGame hook. And make changes. Alright, let's change the query key. And it doesn't take any parameter. Alright, now instead of get game, let's get game events. Change it here as well. Alright, now for the query, let's delete this, copy the query from here. And that's not all, we also need to sort this. Sort by start time and in descending order. Let's limit to 10. So we only need to fetch 10 events. Here we will be returning the data. Let me save this. So here is our hook to fetch the game events. Now let's create a component where we actually use this hook. Let's name it GameEvents. GameEvents. Return a view. Let's provide class name of category. We already have that class name. Let's provide text, and text will be game events. Let's provide class name as heading, and here we render list of events. Let me export it. We can use this in our app.tsx file here at the top. Alright, so we have the game events. Now let's call the hook. We will receive data. Let's name it events, is pending, and error state. If it's still pending, then we will return loader. And if we have any error, then simply return a text. Message, and at last we can console log the data. Alright, let me reload this and go to the dev tools, where as you can see we are getting an array, invalid field name, event logo. Alright, let me look at the hook. Alright, we forgot about the most important thing. We need to change the API endpoint as well. Alright, let me reload this. Go to the dev tools. Here finally we are getting an array and we are getting the 10 events. Alright. Now for the horizontal lists, let's go to the game list. We can simply copy these. Here we are rendering events. Event, Right. At the moment we don't have anything, so let me comment it out and let's work on our event card. EventCard.tsx. Let's return a view only first. Export default event card. Then we can go to type and export interface game event preview. We have ID, we have name, we have event logo, which is an object with image ID of string. We have start time as well of string. Alright, let's go to the game event. So we can type it. It's a promise. I game event preview and it's an array. Alright. Now if you hover over events, it's properly typed. Alright, now we can finally render it. Event card, and we can pass all the property. Alright, now back to the event card. Props, it will be of I game event preview. We can destructure all the properties here. ID, name, event logo, and start time. Here let's provide the class name of card. Then we have image. SRC will be get game image, event logo, image ID. We are using the same function here. Let's provide the class name as image and provide the style as well. With let's say 100%. (16 by 9). Here let's provide the style as well. Let's say width will be 300 pixels. Alright, we are already getting the images. Let's render the name. And let's provide the class name of card title. Alright, so we are successfully rendering all the gaming events and their name. Alright, now let's render the date item. Alright, we already have our date item component. We can provide date. Here we need to provide the human readable date. So we can do something like this. We can pass the start time. We can provide the day, month, and year using just the JavaScript. As you can see, the first one is the month and the second one is the day. Alright. Now let's do event status. if event is upcoming or not. We will do const is future date. We can first convert it to number and then we can compare it. Math.flow date.now and housing. Here we can conditionally render a text. If the date is future date, we can do upcoming. You can see the starting few events are upcoming. Let's provide class name, event status, and let's wrap it inside a view because we want them in the same row. Let's provide style directly here. Display flex, align item center, gap will be, let's say, 10 pixel. Alright, let's go to the app.css. Here let's provide in event status. Let's change the color. Let's also provide the font weight, let's say 500. Alright, it's looking good. Come to the event card, bind touch start, and we can call the handle tab start function. And by touch and handle tap in. And since we are calling this function on the main thread, we need to pass this. Same goes for here. Let me save this, and as you can see, it works perfectly fine now. Alright. Now let's work on the game event screen. Close everything. Go to the screens folder. Create a new file. Let's say game event. Game event screen. Let's directly render a scroll view. Inside we can render a view. In the scroll view we can provide the same class name, scroll container. And inside the view we can provide scroll content. Right now let's only render the back button. Alright, let's export it. Alright, in the index file, let's create a new path and name will be game event. We need to render the game event screen. Alright, let me save this. Let's go to the event card. Let's call use navigate hook so we can navigate to the event screen. and provide the bind temp event here. Game event, pass the ID. Let me reload this. If I press on this, alright, we are on the event screen. Alright. Let's go to the game event screen. Call useParam hook so we can get the ID and console log the ID. Let me reload. If I let's press on this, we are getting the ID. Alright. Now let's create a hook, and we will use that hook to get the data of a specific event. Let's name it useGameEvent, and this time we can copy the content of useGameEvents. Just copy this and make the name changes in the function as well. Alright, it will take an ID of the event. We can provide it here. Alright, so we are getting the ID, name, event logo, start time. Apart from that, we are also getting the description, and we are also doing where ID is equal to the ID of the event ID. We are also interested in fetching the games that are belong to a specific event. So we can do game dot name, game dot cover dot image ID as well. Let me save this, and we are only interested in the first element. Alright, so this is our game event hook. Let's call the hook pass the ID, data, let's call it event is pending an error. If it's pending, then we will return a loader. If error, we'll simply return a text. At the end, let's console log the data as of now. Alright, let me reload this. Let me go to the event which is not upcoming, because if you press on any upcoming event, there won't be any data because the event doesn't happen yet. So let me click on Nintendo Direct. Alright, we are getting an object, invalid field name. Alright, here we need to type games.name and games.cover.image ID. Let me reload this. Right, now go to the event. All right, now we are getting the games as well, and we are getting the description, event logo, etc. All right, it works fine. Now as you can see on this screenshot, we first need to render the image, then name, date and description. Come to the game event screen. Let's provide some padding over here. Actually, let's do it over here. 20 pixel. Alright, it looks good. After the back button, let's do event logo. Go to the game event. We need to type this properly first. Let's go to the types, export, interface, iGameEvent. It will have all the properties that iGameEvent preview has, so we can simply extend it. GameEvent preview, and it has additional two properties. The first one is description. It will be of string, and games, it's an array of iGame preview. All right, in the game event, we can provide this. iGame event. Now we will have proper type, event logo. All right, image, src, get game image. We will pass event logo, image id. Class name will be image. Let's provide some style. Width will be 100%. Let's provide the aspect ratio. 16:9. Alright, it's okay now. Let's render the name of the event. Class name. Let's do event name and CSS file. Font size, let's say 25 pixel. Font weight, let's say 600. All right. Let's restructure the start time, and we can get this start time from the event card. Import date event, date item, sorry. All right. Then we have the description. Let's provide class name of summary. And finally, we have the games. We already have a custom component for games, GameList. We can pass the games directly here. As you can see, we already have the games. Alright, let's go to any other event. Let me first reload this. If you go to the event card, we don't want to press on any of the upcoming events. So what we can do is that we can check here. Is future date and null. Let's do undefined only. Alright, it works fine. And now if I press on this event, we get all the games. Don't forget to provide the orientation vertical. Now we get the scrolling effect. Now we get the games as well. Let's press on this Minecraft. Alright, it's working perfectly fine. Alright, now let's work on our last screen, which will be the search screen. So head to the index. Let's create another route. Let's name it simply search. Here we need to create the component first. So come to the screens folder, create a new file, search screen. Search screen. Let's return a view. Let's provide the class name scroll container and scroll content as well, and export it. In the index, let's render it. Alright, let's create the header on the home screen so that we can provide a button which user can press to redirect to the search screen. So here is our header. On the left we have a logo, on the right we have a search icon. Let's create a component header. Let's return a view first, export, and render it in app.tsx file. Here. Alright, let's provide class name header. Let's render the logo. We have a logo in the assets folder. You can get all the assets from my GitHub repo. And class name as well. Let's go to the app.css. header, display will be flex, align item will be center, justify content will be space between, and logo width let's say 40 pixel and aspect ratio will be 1. Alright, we get this. Let's provide padding. Alright, we will do top 10 pixel, left and right 20 pixel, and bottom 0. Alright, it looks good. Let's import the search icon. Provide class name. Let's name it big icon. Width let's say 30 pixel and aspect ratio 1. Alright, looks good. Now when we press on this button, we need to redirect the user to the search screen. So let's call the use navigate hook. We can do bind tap. And search. Alright, let me reload this and see if it works. Alright, we are on the search screen. In the search screen, let's first render the back button. Now let's provide some inline style. Padding top will be 60 pixel, padding left 20, and padding right will be 20 as well. If you come to the Lynx documentation, you will find out that at the time of recording this video, there is no native input support in Lynx. But if you go to the blog, Lynx Roadmap 2025, you will find out that they are already working on some native elements, additional UI elements and components such as input. But at the moment, they still provide a way for us to integrate input. So come back to the code base. Let's first create a view and let's render an input. View class name will be input container. Here let's say placeholder, search games, and class name. Class name will be input. At the end, we have a button. For that, we will render an image. It will be search icon. Let's import it. Alright. Let's provide class name search icon. Here let's provide the class name of button. So this is the style that we are trying to achieve. Let's do app.css and start with input container. Display flex, align item center, justify contain space between. Let's do background color white. Alright, let's provide padding 5 pixel. Let's do input as well. Height 100%. Color, let's say black. Style the search icon so we can see the image. Width, let's say 15 pixel, and aspect ratio will be 1. Now the button. Let's do padding 10 pixel. Border radius 100%. Background color accent color. Alright, let's do padding actually 15 pixel. Alright, let's provide the border 1 pixel, solid black, and let's do border radius 50 pixel. Alright, it's looking good. In the input, let's say flex 1. In the left, we can increase the padding. So what we can do is that we can provide top, right, bottom, and left padding. Alright, it's looking good. Now in the search screen, let's provide an event handler. The event listener is bind input. Let's do console log. Here is the event. Let's just logging the event as of now. Don't worry about the error. Open your DevTools. If I start typing, you can see we get an object. Inside an object, we get a property called detail, and detail has a value of our text input. So what we can do is then we can do event dot detail dot value. Now we can search for, let's say, Mad Max, and you can see we are getting our input. Let's create a state. Use state, default will be empty string, and make sure you import this from Lynx.js/react. Let's do simply title of the game, set title. Here we can do set title, and we can also provide the value title. Now let's implement the actual search functionality. Come back to the Postman, and at the bottom you will find the endpoint for the search. Here is our API endpoint. For the fields, let's say we are interested in, let me first delete this. We are interested in game.id, name, cover, dot image id. We want to search for, let's say, Cyberpunk 2077. We can also limit the search, let's say 30. If I press on send, you can see we are getting the data. So this is the query that we are going to write in our hook. Let's create a new hook. Name it useSearch. We can copy the content from game, change the name, change the function name, search games, also use that over here as well. Now this hook will take the title, for the query we can copy this, paste this over here. Here we can provide the title. Let's also change the endpoint. Let's provide title and search games. Alright, let me delete this. We also need to provide enabled false because we want to trigger this function manually. Now in the search screen, let's call the useSearch hook and pass the title. We will get data. Let's rename it to games. We will get is fetching, error, and the refetch function to call the function manually. Right now, after the input container, let's do if is fetching, then we can render the loader. And if we found any error, then we can also render a text. Alright. As of now, let's just console log the data. Games. Let me reload. Let me search for a game. Cyberpunk 2077. And in the input container, we have created this button. We can do bind tab and pass the refetch function. Alright, if I press on this, as you can see, we are getting the data. Alright, it works perfectly fine. Let me remove this. Now we can render the game cards. Come back to the links. If you remember, we have been using list. Now we can use vertical list. Let's go with this one. Copy this. Alright, the scroll orientation is vertical. List type will be flow. Span count, basically the column. We need 2 columns. We don't need any style. Instead, we can provide class name. Let's say search list. Here we can map through the games. Here we can provide the item.id. Same goes for here. We can render game card. And we can pass the game. Item.game. This game will have all the properties that game card requires. Let me save this. Let's also do the styling. The app.css. Let's first of all do flex 1. Margin top 20 pixel. Let me save this. Alright, we are already getting the games. Let's do padding left 10 pixel. Alright, and also do list main axis cap. Let's say 15 pixel. Alright, it's looking good. Alright, now let's provide the type in useSearch hook. So it's a promise. It returns an array of object. It has ID. It has game. And the type is game preview. Alright, let me save this. Now everything is properly typed. If you look at it, we have created a button, but whenever user press on it, there is no user feedback. So let's fix that in the button. We can use the same function that we have declared in utils, handle tap start and handle tap end. We can do bind touch start, and we can actually call bind tap end, because whenever user press on the button, we want to change the background color to white. And bind touch end, handle tap start. And since these functions are running on the main thread, we also need to do this. And here as well. Alright, let me reload this actually. Go to search. Let me search for a game. Let's say alright, everything works perfectly fine. So finally the project is complete. I hope you found this helpful, and thanks for watching the video.